so now we're going to look at modeling the frame, okay? So if you want to pick this up, I have created this video demo file. So this is version 1 there with regards to, we modeled the lenses, converted them into solids, and then combined them, okay? So you can go through and pick it up from there if you want to versus going through the start file. Alright, so now I'm going to go into the sculpt mode, okay, create form, and this is where we're going to utilize the pipe tool. Okay, so we're going to create and we'll go to pipe. Now the size of this it ends up, this is done in inches, so I go ahead and set it to 0.4 just so that it won't be too large. And the key with this is to make sure you pick the same edge, okay, because you got two choices there. I'll pick the front edge to this. You can see initially it builds that, then I'll click on that same edge to wrap around, this bottom one, and then finally that edge over there. You should end up with a form that totally wraps around and is basically closed. Okay, I'll switch to the smooth display mode. Notice it gets a lot smaller when you do that. Okay, and that looks about the right size. Keep in mind that, you know, this, I'll show you how to model some of this kind of details into it, but you know, the size is kind of a rough form to start with, and then you can start sculpting from there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do with this after I've got that basic shape is to actually kind of start sculpting the back end. So I want to see about adding symmetry to this, okay, because I want to pull one side and have it match the other side. Well, if you go in and choose the mirror symmetry, what you'll soon discover is that there's not a center line on here. And you can try to do things like this, like step off one, so this is not right there in the center, but off one and pick that. And it does do a form of symmetry, but let me see if I can okay and show you this. It did earlier on me this funky little surface in here that really I think was going to be big issues, and I think it's even doing it now there. So this is, if you don't have an actual edge right in the middle, doing it this way can be problematic. Okay, so I'm gonna, and I mean it does work in that you can pick the faces over here. Notice it picks the mirror side of it, and like I said on my earlier one, it actually picked. Let's see what happens when I actually sculpt it. Maybe it was then. And then if I pull this out, what I want to do is actually sculpt this by grabbing and pulling it out that way. Seems to be working, but there was something really funky going on here with this. So I'm going to show you more kind of what I would say is a more safer way to do this. Let me undo that, undo the symmetry. Okay, and instead what I'll do is go ahead and split these so that there is a line right in the center. So under modify, there's the insert edge. I'll double click on this to go all the way around. Now this one goes the right direction. Oops, I'm going to make sure it's, let's see if it's 0.5, so it would be minus 0.5 on this one. Okay, so that's going to be right at the center. Hit OK to that. Shifts it around a little. Oops, I did the wrong spot. Okay, that's not good. Let's try that again. Insert edge. Double click on that. There we go. And let's get the right size. Minus 0.5. There we go. So you can see it's right on the center. Okay. Hit OK to that. That's what we want to do another time. And double click on that. I'm not sure where it's coming up with these strange values there, but I'm going to do minus 0.5. Hit OK. Alright, so now we're right on the center. Great. Now we go back and choose symmetry mirror and just pick a face there, face there. Notice it's right on the center line now. Okay, so definitely a more sure way, let's put it that way. Alright, so I'm going to bring back now the reference head in this case. Okay, the solid head, I'm not sure why it's not showing up in this, but it's a sculpted environment, so no big deal. We got that reference head. Alright, so let's pick a couple of faces to edit form. Okay, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to grab this and start pulling outward so you can see that it will sculpt out. Now, I don't want to pull it out too much. Instead, I want to stop, hit Alt again, pull out again to kind of do it that way. Alright, this I will, start thinning out as well, and also sculpting upwards a little bit by scaling it, doing something like that, because I need this to be a little bit thicker by the time it gets past this. I'll do another Alt, pull outwards again. Unfortunately, with this model, it's one of these deals that it's the ear is not nicely sculpted back behind it, so this is not a really good accurate way to do it, or true, I would say. This would go around or inside between the ear and the head in this case, but we can do some things like that with it. Let's go back in, kind of play with that a little bit, so we can do some nice sculpting in there and kind of start working out the form, how we want this to kind of to be at this point. Let's do one more kind of manipulation there, and I'll scale it up just a little bit and try to pull it out a little bit more just so I get past that. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time really being accurate with this. Just want to kind of show you some rough things you can do with it in this case. Alright, now one thing that I think works nicely in this, because this gives you a nice rounded form, okay, it looks kind of cool, but and you can definitely do some other things with it. So let's say down here at the bottom, in my reference version, notice it's a little bit thicker through there, okay, so I'm going to pick some of these faces down here, and I'm going to go into edit form and just start pulling this down a little bit, and maybe sculpt it out a little bit. So that's how you can add a detail like that. Don't like that too much, but let's pull it out a little bit further. Do a little scaling. Okay, maybe even rotate this a little bit. There we go. Okay, and so like I said, there's definitely a lot of sculpting you can do with this at this point. Now, ones that I want to show you that I think work real well, because a lot of times you want nice soft forms up against the head, but you want sharp edges maybe on the outside. So the Crease Tool is a great way to do that. So let's go over here towards the center, and I'll turn off the head reference for a second. And under Modify, there is the Crease Tool. So that'll take an edge and convert it to a sharp edge, get rid of the underlining continuity, okay? And it didn't do it. Okay, I was going to say the early one, I think I had some active and it made all those corners sharp, which ended up not being too bad, but I want to make it purposeful, let's say. Alright, now this is definitely one as you go along and do it, and once you crease it, I can easily come back in and select those, and maybe do a selection set or something like that as well. But let me go ahead and pre-select some edges there. No, edges, not points. Alright, edit form, and you can easily pull this up, kind of sculpt it a little bit further that way. Okay, definitely a lot you can do with it. Now, be mindful of, and try to do this as you go along. Hit Finish Form. Make sure this will convert to a solid, okay? Otherwise, you can, run into some problems. Now, you think, my gosh, you have that on your head and you have to fall, you're going to cut yourself. Well, with a crease edge like this, what's nice about it, you go under Modify, hit Fillet, you can pick that edge and give it a little bit of a fillet. Let's see how much we can give. And what's really neat about this, notice it blends back into and kind of away from that form at the very end. Okay, so crease edges are great as a way to kind of get a more defined shape with a T-spline form, especially in a shape like this, and then using fillets as a way to kind of soften it back up on the CAD side of things. Okay, is a great way to do it. I don't have an edge there, so you normally can't pick any of these edges until you do the crease edges on it. Alright, so that's kind of, now like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with sculpting because it's a lot of stuff we've seen before, but just kind of give you some basic flavors of what you can do with it. So we'll look at doing some final details in our next video.